Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's Jen and we are back for another video this week, and we are going to be talking about cheat meals and cheat days. So you've all heard of cheat meals and cheat days, I'm sure. And in fact, you may have asked for them before, or you maybe have anticipated them, or you may have utilized them in your physique transformation journey. And I'm going to be honest, I did for a really long time too, as a coach and also as a competitor. I started utilizing cheat meals or cheat days probably within my second year of competing. I had a coach that I would check in with every Saturday morning, and I would send my weight and my progress pics, and I would anxiously await their phone call to tell me if I could celebrate that evening with a cheat meal. And I really looked forward to that meal. I anticipated it so much that I wouldn't sleep the night before. I would be anxious if the coach didn't call right away and give it to me, and I would beat myself up if I was not rewarded with one because the scale didn't do what it needed to do, or my physique was not making the progress that it needed to make. So why would a competitor who needs to be extra low body fat utilize a cheat meal or a cheat day? So just to explain the metabolic process, when our bodies adapt, certain hormones such as leptin and ghrelin hormone also adapt and compensate. When we have a caloric spike, such as a refeed or a high calorie cheat meal, we then can improve the hormonal function of ghrelin and leptin hormone and ease off some of the negative biofeedback that could be happening from a caloric deficit, and then ignite fat loss moving ahead. So you've probably heard, if you are a competitor, about utilizing a refeed and then dropping weight afterwards. And you know what? It always worked for me, and it's worked quite often with my clients as well. And so at a young age, I'm doing the weekly anticipation for the cheat meal. Now, I want to take you back before I began competing, when I was high in an eating disorder with bulimia and anorexia and binge eating. So what I could do at a young age as a competitor, because of my background and because I had that carrot dangled in front of me for what I wanted to achieve on show day, is I would be incredibly diligent, incredibly controlled, like a soldier, 6 days of the week. And then I would anticipate Saturdays. I would wake up early. I would not sleep the night before. I would wait by my phone for the coach to call. And if they rewarded me with that cheat meal, I felt like I was on top of the world. In fact, my social environment through my years of a really extensive competing revolved around Saturdays and whether or not I or my friends were getting cheat meals. So it was a really important thing. Now, here's what started to happen. I would get that cheat meal and it would start out okay. And then it would go to hell in a handbasket. I could not control the food. I couldn't. It would turn into a massive binge. By about the 5th or 6th year of doing this, with the reward and the punishment, because the punishment being, well, if I don't get the cheat meal, then I'm gonna have to grind harder. But with the reward and the punishment, as well as the biology of weight control that was kicking in as body fat dropped and as calories dropped, because I was trying to achieve a physique that was lean enough to be on stage. And in order to do that, requires exceptionally low body fat, as well as a caloric deficit that is grossly uncomfortable and non-achievable for the long term. But I had primed the reward center in my brain for the anticipation while my biofeedback was actually going into the negative. And one of the biofeedback signals when body fat really, really drops low and calories drops low is that our satiety signals become distorted and we don't always know when we're full. So I would get this meal on the weekend and I would turn it into a binge. It would become a full-on binge experience. And because it was social and because everybody was doing it, I didn't think it was a problem. So because I didn't think it was a problem and because it was stroking my metabolic fire and cultivating fat loss in my preps, guess what I started doing with my competitors? I did the exact same thing. Now, some coaches do this and they still do this. And if you watch this video and you do this, you might be like, no, I reward my clients with a meal on the weekend. If I don't, they're gonna be mad at me. If they can't have dessert and wine, they're not gonna coach with me. And there was a period of time, I will be very honest, that I would advertise my coaching services for my prep based on the fact that if you work with me, I'm gonna reward you with food on the weekend. So, sounds great, right? Well, not really. So about a decade ago, after doing these cheat meals and cheat days with my clients for a decade, I started to notice that when I began implementing a flexible dieting approach, they had, and I was doing meal plans before too, by the way, they would have a repertoire of good versus bad foods. And they too would start hanging on to my every word and my text message or my email or you're ready for a cheat meal, go eat tonight. They would hold on to it like it was life or death. And because the first thing I was noting was the good versus bad food, I thought, well, maybe if we stop calling it cheat so they don't think they're doing something wrong, that's going to help alleviate some of the negativity from them eating their faces off. And so I started calling it a free meal. And I would implement free meals with my clients, especially with my competitors. So they would be doing the macros and they would know that they can have good and bad food, but then I would still reward them with a caloric spike at their discretion on the weekend if their biofeedback showed that they needed it and they were ready for a free meal. And my clients loved that. In fact, check-ins would be really, really great because at the end of the check-in where it says anything else, the question would always be, can I have a free meal this weekend? And so as their coach, I thought I was doing the right thing. I believed that because they were anticipating it, because they were requesting it, and because they weren't disclosing to me that they were also going into binge cycles with it, I thought I was doing the right thing. And I was wrong. So a couple years ago, I kind of shifted my mindset and the way that I coach competitors in terms of this reward. And I'm not going to remove the fact that a specific refeed can work really well for a competitor trying to lose a specific amount of body fat to be competitive on stage. They have their place. But I think that a refeed needs to be more specific. And I think that as coaches, especially myself as a coach, I feel it's really important to look at the mental health and the mindset of your client before getting them into a reward and punishment pattern like I would do with my clients. So while it may work at a psychological level, as well as a biochemical level in terms of how the brain interacts with anticipation and the reward system, it may not work for all females. And especially females that come into this with any type of eating disordered behavior or background. So how do I do specifics with my clients that are in contest prep now? I will give them specific macronutrients to work with for a specific refeed, knowing that they're allowed to implement any foods that they desire within their macro count. Now, that's one way to go about it, but I'm also going to really quickly talk about the fact that if you are somebody that has had binge eating or bulimia or anorexia and you want to compete, you are automatically setting up the reward system in your brain just by doing a contest prep, because the biology weight control is incredibly intelligent, way more intelligent than you, and you are not smarter than your body. I've been saying this for over a decade, but people don't always believe me, but you are not smarter than your body. So you can have that reward, you can have that dangled carrot, and you can chug along for periods of time. Maybe even you can get through 16 weeks of no cheat meals at all and never breaking your diet. And then the reward is gone. Show day is over. And you still have the biology of weight control working its magic through your brain to bring you back to homeostasis or overshoot your set point in order to preserve and survive, because you would have adapted, but also because you set up the reward system in the brain. So this is why so many women, and I'm talking about women here, I'm not talking about men, because we have different relationships with food and everything. So many women end up in rebounds post-show because of the anticipation surrounding food, because of the anticipation surrounding the reward system that comes with food. So if you think about it and you listen to competitors talk, as they're getting closer and closer to their shows, and as their weight is dropping lower and lower, they begin to food fixate, and food becomes their only obsession. So if you come into this and you've had a binge eating disorder and or bulimia, and you start going down the path of a caloric deficit where your brain is signaling to you to eat, to be tired, to fixate on food, and to never feel full, and then you are rewarded with a meal, it's probably going to turn into a binge at some point. The other aspect of this is that if it does turn into a binge and you're a bulimic coming into this, that's a very slippery slope. Where do you think that's going to go? It's probably going to go back to a relapse. So again, I will utilize specific refeeds with my clients. I no longer prescribe to the free meal, cheat day with my clients. I do have lifestyle clients and even competitors who are off season that I will say, like, just go out and put your app away for the night, or just don't track for a couple of weeks. Take some time off, relax. Don't get caught up in being perfect. Enjoy that social moment without needing to overthink it or quantify everything. And by doing that, by approaching it as they are given autonomy, as opposed to they are given a reward for their efforts, it's shifted the way that my clients anticipate food, and they no longer ask me to reward them. So one of the things that I said earlier in the video was that as a coach, I thought that I was doing the right thing. And part of it was I didn't know that my clients were having issues with binging, but as well, I thought I was doing the right thing because they were seeking that reward, because they would ask for it, because it was anticipation. And when we build up anticipation, we create a loop and a cycle that can be very self-destructive, especially when it comes to food. So as a competition prep coach, you'll notice if you go onto my website, I don't even advertise my prices anymore. I have a form there where people can contact me, and I will interview you before I even disclose my pricing or commit to working with you. I take this so incredibly seriously because it's not like a holier than thou thing. It's just an integrity thing. I've been doing this for 20 years and I've had the honor of helping a lot of women. And if I know as a coach that I have an opportunity to change the way that I practice and the way that I deliver a message to my clients to make their experience healthier and better overall, it doesn't matter if I used to do things one way. I need to make that adjustment for the future, for the better. One of the things that I think people need to know if they choose to coach or they work with a coach is that methods will change. Philosophies will shift and evolve. As we sit here right now and I do this video, 5 to 10 years from now, I will be saying something very, very different, or maybe different, but in the same way. Because no different than any other industry or practice, things evolve, shift, and change. Training, nutrition, supplementation, fat loss, metabolism, everything is evolving. Science is changing every single day. So if you were doing cheat meals and cheat days, but found yourself stuck in that loop pattern of reward and punishment, and believe me, if you start falling into the pattern of binge eating and it gets to that point where you feel really out of control, it's going to put you into a big old shame circle. Not only that, but when you do those binges, you feel like dirt for a few days. For me, it used to be this massive consumption of food that would turn into a binge, and then 2 or 3 days of my blood sugars and my body regulating itself until I felt normal again, which I would only feel for a couple days, and then I would go right back into that cycle. So for me, it wasn't worth it. And what I know of my clients and what I've seen, it's not worth it. I only really prefer a couple methods for nutrition with my clients, and that's flexible dieting, depending upon the individual, a non-diet approach, or a blend of working macros with more of a flexible, intuitive approach with my clients. I no longer prescribe to meal plans, which I can talk about another day, but I definitely no longer utilize cheat meals and cheat days as a reward for compliance with my clients, because I have seen the results from a mental health aspect of how this can impact women when that carrot is dangled and the brain is wired for survival. So that's my story on cheat meals and cheat days. Coming up in my next video, we're going to be talking about training. So stay tuned. As always, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Appreciate it, guys. Bye.